Namaste and welcome to a new episode of Idanim Inspirations. My name is Raman Mittal, and I am honored to welcome our guest for today's episode, who describes himself as a former teacher and a former me. Uh, I must say, what a beautiful way to use words to point to something which is beyond words. So please join me in welcoming Teja Anand, who calls himself as a lifelong musician, writer, and a counselor, who offers nothing, no method, no teachings, just a gentle invitation to what we already have here and now. We are so honored to have you with us, Teja ji. Lovely to see you again, meet you again over Zoom. Welcome to this new episode of Idanim Inspirations.
Thank you. Thank you for it's just wonderful to sit with you.
Yeah, same here. So, Teja ji, I'll start with my first question. And you might have been asked this question many, many times. It would be great if you could share your journey and practice when and how this sense of me become former me. So, yeah, when and how did that happen?
Okay. So this is just a story of this, this body and mind. It's not special. It's just a train of events, a chronology, but I'm happy to share that. Uh, so it seems like I had a realization at a very young age that this was all the dream. And I remember having climbed a tree, which was in front of our house in my hometown. And all of a sudden, while I was up at the topmost branches, I looked at my hand and I could see through it. I could see the energy of the hand rather than a solid shape. And then I looked out everywhere around me and saw the same thing. And because I was only 5 years old, I didn't know to make this into a problem. I didn't fear it. It was
You
like,
were
oh,
5 years old.
yeah, five. And I came down from the tree and I ran in to tell my mother. And I said, this is all a dream. This is just the dream. And she said, sure, honey, whatever you say. And when I persisted, she felt like maybe I should call the child psychologist and get an appointment tomorrow.
And did you see one?
No, not then.
Lucky you.
And there was just a real clarity that I was an actor in a dream and that it was parallel to the dreams I had at night. That the apparent character walking around the night dreams, you know how we go through different scenarios very quickly. In the night dreams, it seems like 1 second we're here and the next second we're there with these persons and that persons. And it became clear to me that this also was that. This was also the dream. And just longer and more linear, but same. And I remember being overjoyed with this recognition. But it didn't sustain because I had to go to school and I had to uh, be one of the kids and become friends or whatever with the other children. And I had to act normal. And so that original feeling kind of decreased over time. And even as I went through high school and into college, which for me was conservatory, I was a musician, so I went for conservatory. And so all of the pressures from the parents, from the other kids, from society as a whole, from the world as a whole, it kind of kept urging me to take my place as a member, right? As just one more solid self, separate from all of this. And so, at that, I'd say by the time I was 12 or so, I was just another kid playing football and practicing music and doing good in some subjects, but terrible in some other subjects in school. But it stayed with me. And so, starting at around 14 or 15, I started to visit other people and other sources to remind me, what was that? What was that happened? That was real, but it's drifting away from me now, but I want to get it back. What was that? And I started visiting different teachers and also spending a lot of time at the spiritual bookstore. We had one that wasn't too far from us, reading uh, Ramakrishna Paramahansa, reading Vivekananda, uh, really reading whatever I could get my hands on to try to explain this. And then I got old enough, I was actually able to drive and go visit different teachers. So I'd say for the next couple of decades, I lived in different ashrams. Uh, I left the conservatory and uh, moved in to an ashram in Connecticut that was run by a teacher named Sachidananda, Swami
Yes.
Sachidananda, who was a well-known teacher. He had started a series of yoga institutes that were popping up all over the country. They were called Integral Yoga Institute. And I got very close to Sachidananda and was able to learn a lot from him. And then there was a point where it was like, okay, what's next? And I was like a sponge and just kept studying with different teachers and uh, different approaches. And then some things happened that had nothing to do with the meditations or the approaches. And it seemed to culminate uh, totally without any cause and effect. I don't know why, but I was in the woods. I went on a retreat in the woods by myself. I
Okay.
just went out and felt I needed to be with the trees and be with nature and just drop back into that innocence that had been there when I had no pressures and no identities and stuff like that. And I was sitting in meditation in the middle of uh, a big opening that was surrounded by trees, and I was right in the middle of the forest. And I went into a state that felt altered again, that kind of dreamlike state again. It wasn't so much that I sat down and said, I'm going to meditate for a couple of hours. It was more instantaneous than that. There was maybe 5, 10 minutes of what seemed like meditation, but it was more like something was happening and it was seating me into the seat and it was changing me and I didn't have to do anything. And I closed my eyes as if to discover more, meditate more. And this really noisy sound started, and it caused me to open my eyes because it sounded like hoofbeats. Like I thought, oh, maybe I'm on somebody's private property, and maybe they have horses, and they're out riding, and I'm on their property. Maybe I need to leave. So I opened my eyes, and there was a 12-point deer buck charging right towards me from a distance, from several hundred feet away, but it seemed aimed right towards me, like Like maybe if I didn't get out of the way, I was going to get run over. But I didn't feel scared. I just watched it approach. And
You didn't get
it,
up?
no, I was thinking of getting up, but once again, there was some force that was pulling me down and saying, just let this happen. This is important. Just let this happen. And the buck stopped at a point that was about maybe no more than 15 or 20 feet away from me and turned to the left and made a circle around me, a complete circle, came back to the point where it had originally stopped and looked right at me. And as I looked, the face changed from the deer, and it was the face of Ramana Maharshi.
Okay.
And I had cherished him as one of my mentors. He and Sri Nisargadatta and other teachers who have more of the Advaita Vedanta approach. And he looked at me fiercely, and then he turned around and ran back where he came from, gone. And that was it. It was over. The identification was gone from that point on. I was just something moving through the world, but without an identity of, you know, a person.
And how do you know it was not an imagination?
I don't, but then again, it doesn't matter. What this is all imagination. If I remember from the 5-year-old boy, what he saw was this is all imagination. So maybe that was too. And but all I knew is that I sensed a radical shift in my experience of myself, this body, and of the world, and that was it.
And what kind
So
of shift was it? I mean, if it can be described in words.
it's tough to describe in words, but it's more like I watch the body and the mind move through the world, and I watch the mind formulate thoughts, and it's not me. I'm watching that. There's no me that stuff is happening to, right? And there never was. There never was a me. There was an illusion of a separate self who's cooking the food and eating the food and meditating and making love with my wife or whatever it was. But that was always being, just being itself and talking to itself, writing its own script, acting it out itself, and through this body and mind. And so we can give the body and the mind a name and an identity, but it's not real. It's just part of the play. It's just like a play, right? It's like if someone says, I want you to be in my play and I want you to take the part of the king. When I'm on stage, I will say, I'm the king, and I will say, this is real. And if I'm going to give a convincing performance, I need to really believe in it, really believe in it. Almost so much so that even after the play is over, I might march around like a king, right? You know, but then it
Yes,
finally comes back to me. Oh, that's just a character I was portraying, so that we could have this Leela, this play, and enjoy it. That's all.
that's very, very profound. And I'm going to talk more about it. But before we uh, talk on this separate sense of self, since you touched upon meditation,
Hmm.
you wrote a book called Watching Your Life, where you try to demystify meditations, simplify meditation. So, what really is meditation and what it is not? And if there is something called meditation, why should we even meditate?
Yeah, right. So Is that the question?
Yes.
Okay.
What really is meditation?
Okay. So there's a lot of ways to explain that. And fortunately, there's thousands of books that do just that. So you can find the one that most appeals to your temperament. Uh, for me, the simplest way to describe it is uh, there are points in your life where you're not thinking,
Yes.
where you just are. It doesn't matter if you're silent or not. It doesn't matter if you're walking or sitting. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You just are, just pure isness, right? And the place that that's noticeable is in between two thoughts. But for 99.9% of us, the thoughts come too quickly in succession, and there is no space in between. There appears to be no space in between them, nor do you seem to have any control over what you think about.
Yes.
I always ask people, can you predict your next thought? Can you control what you're going to think about next? Of course not.
No.
Things just come, right? So, really, the simplest way to describe meditation is entering that window where in between two thoughts, just entering that space where there's just what is, but there's nobody thinking about what is and analyzing it and judging it and going, oh, this means this and this means that. It's just what is. And so I feel like it's useful sometimes for people to sit and just observe their thoughts and observe this train of thoughts that just keeps going and going and going. Don't have any judgment about it. And don't try to change it. Don't try to slow them down, quiet them down. Don't try to have fewer thoughts. That's a real nasty trick in the spiritual world, having fewer thoughts. Just watch, just watch. And then every once in a while, turn your attention, your awareness to what is watching this. Something is watching this. It must be, or I wouldn't know that I have thoughts.
Yes.
And yet there's a difference. The thoughts themselves, they have some sort of judgment. Each thought has kind of an analysis to it. What does this mean? What am I supposed to do next? This is
Me,
an important
judgment,
thought.
comparison.
Yeah. But the thing that's watching doesn't. It's just neutral. It's like a pair of eyes that aren't connected to a brain. All it has the power to do is just go, and just notice each thought. It doesn't have any judgment or concern or investment at all. It's not even engaged in the thoughts. So when you notice that, meditation becomes effortless. You're no longer trying to do anything with your mind or your thoughts. You're simply noticing what is it that's aware of thoughts. And you purposely allow yourself to go visit that, to go engage with that. What's that awareness? And notice its qualities, which is zero. It has no qualities, right? And so eventually there can be a reduced sense of the separate self because you realize, oh, this is all just happening. I have no control over this. So I must not be all this stuff that's going through my mind. I must be that silent observer, or else I wouldn't know about it.
There are various questions that are popping up related to this. Where do I start? So many people start their meditation practice in order to calm down this continuous chatter with that expectation, okay, if I start doing or start practicing a certain technique, then this continuous chatter would stop. Does that ever happen?
Well, it's already happening. It's just a question of where your attention is turned. Buddha used to say, you enter samadhi 8,000 times every day, or even he would say you enter enlightenment 8,000 times a day. It's just a nice Zen saying, but the point being that already that is happening. It's just that your attention is so used to being on the thoughts and what they mean and what you need to do about them. But already there's another turn of your attention towards the silence, towards what
Yes.
is,
So
right?
do you mean the pause between two thoughts, a moment where, when there is no thought, there is just isness, and even if there is a thought, you are not completely identified, consumed in it. When you let thoughts be, then you are. Uh, is that
Well,
what
you
you mean?
always, yeah,
You
you
we
always
always
were.
are. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There is
You,
never a time when we are
you just
not.
notice it. You just notice it probably for the first time.
Yes.
For many people, when they sit in meditation and it starts to dissolve more into these periods of just being pure silence and being attentive to that silence, that's maybe the first time they've ever noticed, oh, all this time I thought I had an identity which was essentially composed of thoughts and memories and all that kind of stuff. And the first thought is always I.
Yes.
Right? The first thought, I feel like this. I want this. I'm afraid of this. I'm concerned about this, right? And then the opportunity is for you to just be watching that. You watch, oh, look at all that moving past. Who's watching? Who's seeing that? Does the awareness have any investment, or is it just kind of cataloging it? Ah, I see. And then what you were talking about, which was calmness, can come because there's a sense of detachment from it. So,
So, Teja, one another question popped up. Usually, when I sit for my meditation practice and I practice something very, very similar to what you just described, just watching everything, allowing everything as they appear uh, in this field of awareness, in this field of consciousness, and just being um, and resting in that awareness. And many times I notice sometimes there is a doer who is doing a meditation, and as Krishnamurti used to, maybe this is what my interpretation is, that observer is the observed. There is somebody who is observing. And then there are also times when there is no observer, there is only observation which is taking place. And then it is really one field of awareness where everything is moving, everything, there is very clear seeing of oneness, beingness, just a single field of awareness, and then the entire imaginary world taking place, being created every moment with every thought. um, it is very, very clear, but
mm,
many times there is a duality. There is an observer, there is observed, and in that observer there is I who is observing, and who's trying to change, who's trying to find peace, who's trying to uh, predict, or who wants a certain outcome with this practice. I'm not sure if I'm able to. Uh, I don't even know if I'm asking a question or just sharing. But yes, there are times when even seeing it has two forms. One, there is somebody who is watching something, and then there is not even somebody who is watching something.
mhm. Yeah, of course. And, in the spiritual world, they've tried to give stages and labels to this. So in the Vedanta world, it's the different levels of samadhi. And in the Buddhist world, it's the different yanas. But in both cases, it means that your sense of an observer being separate from the observed is dissolving, is collapsing. And at a certain point, you can feel that collapse happening, but there's still a you feeling it happen. There's still a sense of, my, I'm going into samadhi now. I'm going into samadhi now. I'm experiencing that everything is one, that it's just a field of awareness. And then at a certain point, there's no one watching. And there's no one saying that because there's only the field of awareness. And awareness wouldn't talk to itself like that. It wouldn't say, oh boy, I'm just awareness now. It would
Yes.
just be. It would just be what is. Just like, the air around you, the wall in front of you would never talk about its status. It would just be what it is. And so would this awareness would just be what it is, a part of the flow of everything. And it's important in meditation to remember that that's just an experience that you can't cause independently, right? You cannot independently sit down to meditate and cause anything to happen by yourself because everything is interdependent. Even the part of you that learned meditation and was a person who even was interested in meditation is something you didn't cause,
Yes, for sure.
right? So here you are on your meditation cushion. You're one of those people who got interested in meditation. You're one of the, I don't know how big or small the percentages of the world that's even interested in this stuff. And you're sitting there and this stuff starts to dissolve. And it doesn't mean that you're headed towards, as you called it, an end goal. It's just what is. It's already what is. You're not waiting for something to happen where you dissolve into pure awareness that isn't even aware of itself. You're not waiting for it to cause enlightenment. You're just sitting. You're just being. That's all. You could have been doing that while driving your car. You could have been doing it while eating a meal. But here you are. It seems more conducive to sit silently in a dark room with a candle and, that kind of thing. It seems to be more conducive to that. So it's fine. It's wonderful.
And I'll come back to the question which I asked earlier, and you answered it. But just a follow up one. So my question was, do thinking might stop, and you said that it does stop even now. And you gave the example of Buddha, that it happens 8,000 times in a day. So does that ever stop completely? Let me rephrase it.
Sure.
Or
Every night, every time you go to sleep in deep
it
sleep,
does.
are you having any thoughts? Do you even know who you are at that moment? Do you know what the world is? Do you know that you're lying in a bed in this particular location?
And
No.
in the waking state, Teja, I mean,
It,
when I'm not asleep.
yeah. I mean, it can be a part of your waking state also. It's not significant, but it can be.
And many people make it as a goal, and I guess that becomes a hindrance instead of helping or becoming a, you know, end point. Then people start anticipating that.
Of course. So then we could approach that from two directions. Let's try the first direction is why? Why do I want a certain end goal? And usually the answer is because as a personal I am dissatisfied with life. I am unfulfilled. I am suffering. I have pain. I'm worried about death. Any number of descriptions of me feeling discontented and then thinking that if I do enough of this, I will reach this point of permanent peace and contentment and bliss and that
Or
kind of.
maybe I've just a belief, a concept in my head which I might have gathered through some reading or have listened to somebody, that there is a state when there is no thought, I am in pure bliss. though I have not really experienced it, and I only know it conceptually, but I've kind of have believed that concept. And that is what now I'm chasing. I'm chasing a mirage. I'm chasing a concept. I'm chasing an idea of something that I have no experience of, and then I'm in a deeper misery.
Yeah, because why are you chasing it? If you were satisfied with how everything is right now, would you be chasing something else?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, of
Absolutely.
course. And so then that brings us to the second consideration about that, which is the I thought that we talked about already. You said, wouldn't the chasing it as an end goal become the hindrance to it? And the answer is yeah, because who's chasing it? An illusion is chasing an illusion. And you are trying to be in that mental state where there are no thoughts, no illusions. But if you keep on thinking like, I need to get something, that's an illusion chasing an illusion. All that does is amplify and reinforce the very thing that's obscuring your vision. What right now you are that. You are not something trying to become that or get to that. If you do enough hours of meditation or enough austerities or purifications, kriyas or whatever, you are already that. So then wouldn't the very thought, I am not that, and I need to do this, this, and this to become that, be the very thing that obscures your vision that you already are that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And at the same time, the identification is so strong for all of us in the beginning. The identification is so strong that it's very difficult for us to not try to do something.
Yes.
And that's why I say, even for myself, when I was, after that experience at the age of 5, I spent decades trying to get back to that experience as if I wasn't already that. The imprint that was left after I came down from the tree and was I'm that. This is all just one dream, all one thing. But then as the other filters came in, the other children in my neighborhood, the things that we did together and stuff like that, then all of a sudden I started to think, I'm not that, I'm this. I'm just this one body, this one mind, right? And so that identity can uh, become so concretized that you just are sure you are that, and you're not this. You're not the big that with a capital T. And then you start trying to do things to get back there. So I did the same thing that you're
A-
talking about.
And how do we break or dissolve this strong identification with thoughts, with me, with this identity?
You do realize the oxymoron in your question, right?
I do. So let me be clear. There are few questions that I'm asking on behalf of my users. Many users, ask the same question. So I'm taking this opportunity to, give them maybe different language, different coming from different master, um, and there are some questions um, which I would like to ask for myself.
Yeah,
So I
that's
do see the do see the oxymoron.
yeah. So the moment we say, how do I, and then it doesn't matter what words follow. It could be, how do I get rid of the I? How do I break the identification with the I? It doesn't matter. The minute that you say, how do I, you've just put the cage right back around yourself again. You've just put yourself right back into the cell in the prison that you say you're trying to escape. And if
And
you
it is
just
so difficult to see through. It is so difficult to not be free from it. I mean, we keep on getting into the trap of wanting, achieving,
Mhm,
uh, getting something somewhere at some point,
mhm.
believing I'm not free in this moment.
Right, right. And actually, That is the obscuration itself. That's the game, the play. That's the script that has been written for us as apparent human beings, is for us to play hide and seek. Being playing hide and seek with itself, right? Oh, being, I'm going to do something here. I'm going to anthropomorphize being. So I should preface this by saying being is just being. It doesn't have any wants. It's not a human. It doesn't have any plans or anything like that. But for the concession to the mind, we'll just talk in terms of being, saying, oh, I think I am the one and I am in total bliss all the time. But I think I will purposely manifest myself into the many, the 8.5 billion. And every one of those will be convinced they are a separate being that needs to get back to me. I will play hide and seek with myself just for the fun of it, just for the sheer delight of it, no other reason, right? So that's why it's so strong. If everybody in the dream knew that they were dreaming, there's no dream. It's over, right? If you know, if you are going to the movie theater and you're really watching a great movie, there's like 100 characters and they're all playing their part perfectly and they really believe in their part. And then strangely, right in the middle of the movie, they all turn towards you sitting in the audience and saying, hey, everybody, you know that we're just actors and this is just a dream. They break the fourth wall, as they call it, right? And then it's like, well, that screwed up the movie for me. I was really getting into it, but now I get that it's just, you know, illusions being projected on a screen. So I'm not interested anymore. You get up and you walk out, right? It's over. So the same thing would happen here. If everybody just woke up, then the dream is over. So it seems really real. It seems really hard to break that identification. But then there's a question that comes up. Do you need to? If
But
this is all being, if this is all being, and being is just having this dream, do any one of us illusions really need to realize anything? Need to have a shift? Do we need to?
but isn't the dream identification with this me causing me misery, uh, pain?
Well, it seems that way, doesn't it? It also seems like it's causing you pleasure at certain times, right? It seems
I
like
mean,
it's causing.
I'm not really talking about the opposite of, I'm not really talking about achieving pleasure, but if I am out from this identity, then there is, when I reside, I rest in this awareness, in this isness, then there is no me who's suffering or taking pleasure in something
Right.
when I'm out of it. So isn't that the reason to wake up?
No, no one ever wakes up. There's no such thing as enlightenment. There's no such thing as awakening. That's a personal awakening or a personal enlightenment. It's just being in different locations, very rare. Being will wake up to itself in that location. We can pick a sage if you like, Buddha, Ramana Maharshi, and say, for some reason, in that location, being woke up to itself and said, I'm not going to play the role of Buddha or Ramana anymore. I'm just going to be being. I'm done with that. Over here, the person next to Ramana, I'll still play them. But Ramana, we're done with that role. It's
So
just,
why did Ramana Maharishi or Buddha, Ramana Maharishi, um, he did give, I mean, it doesn't seem to be his first choice, but to people who could not understand him, he did give uh, a technique or practice to follow an inquiry on who am I, or Buddha gave Vipassana. While people can argue, not Buddha has not really written himself, So we don't really know for sure whether the techniques which are being practiced in Buddhist traditions are actually given by Buddha or not. But in case of Ramana Maharshi, we have a fairly strong evidence that he did give Who Am I or J. Krishnamurti's inquiry, observation.
Yes.
Why are they doing it?
Why is anything happening? I mean, you have to ask the question in that context. We're singling out this this territory of teaching of a sage who has apparently awakened, and then others come to him and say, "I would also like to awaken. What should I do?" You know, and we're singling that out as if that's a special event in the universe, but it's not. It's no different than you going and getting a bowl of rice and eating it right now. And then someone coming up to you and saying, "I would also like some rice. Can I have some?" It's no different. It's just being, talking to being about things being already knows and needs no reminding. So it's just the play. In Vedanta, they call it lila. It's just the divine play. You know, I get asked this question a lot. Uh, when I was young and I first started visiting with different teachers, they all were asked the same question. And the question was, well, if being's original state was just being, so nothing happening, pure bliss all of the time, why did it manifest out of itself into all of these distinctions and separations which cause so much chaos? Why not just stay in bliss, right? And to a person, every one of the teachers had the same basic answer. And the answer was some version of, well, God wanted to know itself consciously, and it couldn't do that unless it manifested all these data collectors who then sent back all these experiences. So now God can say, oh, now I know myself consciously. Some version of that, right? And I assume you've heard this also, yeah?
Yes.
But that's only because as separate identities, we think that something has to have a meaning or a purpose, that it exists. So there must be a reason why God did this, why being did this. But there's no reason because nothing ever happened. It's all an illusion. It's all just the dream. And there's no reason at night why you dream. It just fires off. All of a sudden, the neurons take over and the memories take over, and you dream. There's no reason for that. You could have a night where you have no dreams and you would still be fine in the morning. So,
So I'm going to ask a follow-up question on this, Teja, and many users ask it. Um, just by accepting or agreeing to to it, it is just a dream, doesn't really make it so for many or maybe most people. And I'm going to repeat the same question. Uh, is there a way to wake up? And you said that we don't. Uh, when we are in when we are asleep and when we are dreaming, we don't really realize we are dreaming. It is real, but then there comes a moment when we wake up from dream, and then get to know that okay, it was a dream. Before that, we don't even know that it was a dream. So why do you say it is a dream? There must be a realization that it is a dream. And for many, for you it's a reality, but for most it is not.
I understand.
You would have woken up from a dream to realize that it is a dream.
It seems like that. Yeah, but did I wake up, or did being just wake up to itself? Was there even an I, a Teja character, who was involved in that so-called transition that you just described? I'm asking if you'd like to answer it. I'm giving you the question. Because once
Or you
again,
realize that there is no Teja.
right, but Teja doesn't realize there was no Teja. Being confirms there never was a Teja. That's quite different. If I, as Teja, realize there's no Teja, that's just me giving it lip service. That's still back to spiritual bypassing, spiritual materialism. Oh, hi, everybody. Guess what I realized yesterday? I realized I don't exist. Okay, then who's this I doing all this realizing? Right?
Yes.
It's it's a contradiction, built-in contradiction there. And I want to I don't know how you will share this wonderful talk we're having with your friends who are part of your sangha, part of it's called
Idanim.
Idanim. Uh, and at the same time, I will speak out as if I'm speaking to all of them and say, I apologize that I am coming at this from such an absolute perspective. Because I know that that's what I'm doing. I keep saying you don't need to awaken. Every time somebody says, okay, well, then how do I awaken? I say there's no I that awakens and you don't need to, right? And so I apologize in the sense that everything I'm saying is from the absolute perspective. And there's nothing wrong with doing stuff, meditating, taking classes, doing kriyas. There's nothing wrong with asking, how do I? It's fine. You can do all of that. Just realize that what you're doing when you do that is you're not trying to die. You're trying to improve your life experience. There's nothing wrong with trying to improve your life experience. But true self realization isn't that, it's death. And that's pretty strong. Most people who will hear that go, oh, okay. And they'll turn around and head in the other direction. I don't want death. I just want to improve my life experience to the point where I'm experiencing bliss all of the time. And this conversation isn't about that, at least not when you're talking to me. I'm sure you have many other people you can interview who will say, oh, yes, do this, then do this, next do this, meditate on this, and you will experience this. And that's a fine conversation. It's just not this conversation. It's gone. It's totally gone. So I just want to acknowledge that.
And you do call yourselves as a non-teacher, and this question came up in my mind. And you do various retreats, even meditation sessions. Uh,
Yeah.
what are you pointing to? Are you pointing somebody through these sessions or teachings or practices that lead to the collapse of this identity, or what? Uh,
Yeah. I'm not leading meditations or retreats. Something is. Once again, it's just being, having fun with itself, right? I could be a cook, a chef, and I could be leading people to my restaurant to eat my food and get the pleasure from that. In my in this body's life, I have been a professional musician, and so I could be playing music for them, and they could be having an experience in relationship to the music. They could be loving it. They could be going off into ecstasy. They could be walking out and saying, that's not my kind of music. I don't enjoy that, whatever, right? There's no difference. There's no difference. It's just being playing with being. It looks like here on earth, it looks like there's teachers who are inviting students to become a sangha and to learn about meditation and to try this practice and try that and study these scriptures and stuff. It looks like that, but it's not special. It's nothing different. It's nothing different than those other examples. Now, when I get together with the people who meditate with me or go to retreat with me, uh, all that seems to exist is love. I don't know how that works, but all that seems to exist is love, loving itself. And then I say, let's meditate for a while. And maybe I even guide the meditation and I say, meditate on this. Are you experiencing this? And maybe I have a retreat where we do various practices. Sometimes we even dance and do practices through dance. And sometimes we go through all the different versions of meditation, vipassana, tratak, lots of bhakti chanting. Why am I leading these people in chanting Krishna and Shiva's name? What is that? Where did that come from? How is that supposed to elevate their experience, right? And we do all of these things together. And what it looks like is cause and effect, but it's not. And the reason I know this is true is because people will come up to me in the middle of the retreat or at the end of the retreat, and they will say, something happened to me. And I thought it was because of the meditation you were leading. Or I thought it was because of something you said. Out of your wisdom, you made a comment and boing, something went off. But then when I looked deeper, I noticed it had nothing to do with cause and effect. It's just somehow in this environment, it was conducive to me getting out of my own way for a minute. I
Yes.
got out of my way and something happened. And it would be very easy uh, to say it was you or your teachings or the teachings that you shared from other teachers. It would be very easy to say it was the meditation we did or the dance we did or something in the retreat. But it would have happened anyway if it was going to happen. This is just the trappings, the environment that seemed conducive to it. But all it was being saying, I think I'm going to wake up over there, maybe for a moment, maybe permanently, maybe. That's it.
And you very often say that you were inspired by the teachings of Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj in particular. Do you or did you even practice the inquiry of who am I and Nisargadatta Maharaj's I am? I wouldn't
Yeah.
really call meditation or technique because they really point to the whenever I look for who am I, then it takes to my own beingness. Or when I not think but I am, then again it takes me to something beyond my thoughts, to my beingness, to my awareness,
Yeah.
which doesn't really have a form as such.
Right. I practice them.
Correct.
When I first discovered Ramana, I was very young and I walked around all day going, okay, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Because I thought it was that. I thought it was that kind of a practice. If I ask who am I enough, all of a sudden some big light will go off in the
And many
sky.
people still believe or expect an answer
Yeah.
rather than question dissolving.
It's important to realize that when he was saying, who am I? Uh, as an inquiry, and he said this himself, but a lot of people leave this part of the practice off. And that is, he said, when you're asking, who am I? You're not asking to get an answer. You're asking so that the questioner disappears. But we're so used to asking questions and then expecting an answer, a solid answer. Why is this? Because of this, right? So who am I? We're waiting for the answer. At a certain point, what happens is you're asking, who am I? And you're going, there is no answer to this. There isn't even a question. There's just being. That's all there is. And that happens naturally, not because you asked, who am I, 10 times or 10 million times. It makes no difference. And in the case of Sri Nisargadatta, uh, you know, he said that, and by the way, it's important to point out here, I think it's important to point out here, you are such a beautiful being. The people who were with you when we first started, before the interview started, your friends, the variety, the uniqueness of the human experience is beyond bliss. It's so amazing. Everybody's story is different, and everybody's story should be different. Being has no need to repeat itself with someone else who's exactly like you or exactly like me, right? So as we tell these stories of Ramana and Nisargadatta and Buddha and all, that's just their story. That's just what it looked like for them. Somebody else will see that and go, oh, if I replicate that, maybe I can be enlightened too, if I do exactly what they did. It's not going to work that way. I'm so sorry. You know, and JK, our friend
It's
Krishnamurti, he was very adamant about this. He constantly talked about, you know,
truth
this
is a
is,
pathless land.
yeah, is, and you have to find your own path. So in the case of Nisargadatta, he wasn't even looking for a spiritual path, but he had a friend who insisted, you come see my guru, and the guru gave him one instruction only:
Yes.
I am that, right? He said, reject all the other thoughts that are coming through your mind and just repeat Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. Aham Brahmasmi over and over again. It worked for him, but I guarantee you it will not work that way for anybody else. And I did that. You asked me if I did that. I think for a couple of years, every time I had a thought, I immediately said, Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. I am that. I am that. Didn't work. Something worked in my case, but it wasn't that. So, as we do these things, don't try to copy anybody else's
Yes.
path.
And the moment we do that, we are already, maybe in the name of meditation, we are already, there is a mind which is working there is an I which is all, which is mind created, which is meditating. I mean, meditation, whenever we try to get attached, identify with the practice or a pattern or a method, uh, something that you are pointing to, I guess. Not, I mean, no practice would work. We'll have to find our own.
Right.
So do you find yourself in any situation, in any relationship where um, you don't really see it being manifesting being, but getting identified, getting invested, getting, maybe suffering from pain? Do you find yourself in those kind of situations or relationships?
Well, the body does, and the brain does. And as long as we are in a body, suffering is inevitable. Thoughts are inevitable. Good thoughts and quote unquote bad thoughts are inevitable. And so then you bring up one of the most beautiful points, which is then how do you experience being all of that in all of those situations all the time? And the answer is quite simple. It's being is all inclusive.
Yes.
Being includes the suffering. It includes the crazy, chaotic thoughts that are happening this hour in your life. It includes the pain. It includes the pleasure. It includes all of it. So when you are experiencing yourself as a separate self, having a separate life that's going through all of these gyrations. You just simply acknowledge, oh, this is being too. For some reason, being, for no reason, being wanted to have all of this too, the suffering and the chaos and stuff like that. So in my case, uh, I could still be in a car accident tomorrow, you know, or I could go to the doctor and he could say, I'm so sorry, but you have cancer and you'll be dying in 6 months, or something like that. Any of that. Or I could simply have an argument with my wife, right? Have you ever had an argument with another person, Raman?
Day in and day out.
Right. So then you just see that as part of it. You don't see that as, oh, this is not good for my spiritual path. This is separate from that. I need to avoid those kind of things and abstain from those kind of things and just do this. That's not all inclusive anymore. So now you're not being anymore. You're being this individual who's judging and making choices of what's right and what's wrong. And so that once again obscures the vision.
And this reminds me of a talk where you suggested to remind whenever we judge any particular event or situation, life situation, and and when we judge, we basically forget that it is one life which is manifesting, which is flowing, but we as separate self tend to judge a situation. And you suggested that maybe we can remind that it is one life which is flowing. But when I was listening to that talk, this question came up: who is reminding whom?
Exactly. It's just being talking to itself, like I said before. There is no who in the equation. There's no person there who's doing that.
But at that point, I as separate entity is judging an event, is
Okay.
making a statement, right? In that moment, I'm not really being, and I'm
Yes.
a separate entity. I'm Raman who is maybe perturbed because of a certain outcome, certain event.
Sure,
And
sure.
right, what do I do in that moment?
Judge it. If you're judging something, go ahead and judge it. Then my question to you is, are you judging that you are judging?
Sorry, come say that again, please.
Are you judging that you are judging? It's fine for you to become the separate identity for a few minutes and get perturbed, as you called it, about a situation. But then later on, do you say to yourself, oh, I shouldn't have judged. I shouldn't have done that. I
That's a
moved away
judgment.
from being. So you're still judging, right? So don't disinclude any of it. Include all of it. Include the fact that sometimes you default to your personal identity and you catch yourself, but then you, instead of moving back into being, you judge that as wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have defaulted. I should have remembered. Nisargadatta has one of the most beautiful statements about this, if I might share it,
Yeah.
because he was being questioned by a student about the dream. And the student said, if I start seeing everything as the dream, then how will I function in life? And, all these questions about the dream. And Nisargadatta said, your problem is not the dream. Your problem is you like some parts of the dream, but you don't like the other parts of the dream.
I've
Lo-
read that.
Love all of it or none of it and stop complaining. He was fierce. And I think that this applies to what we're saying here. You will default to the identity unless you don't. But most of the people in this world will live in that identity, that illusory separate identity, and have all of the chaos that comes along with that, all of the suffering and the pleasure and the pain and all that kind of stuff. So when you notice that, you say, I'm going to just include all of it. It's all a part of this dream, this play. I'm not going to love some parts of it and try to not love other parts of it. And then when you find that you didn't succeed and you still feel like a person, a perturbed personal identity, don't judge that either. Include that. Okay, today I'm the perturbed identity. That's just how I feel right now. And allow that too. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. As best as you can. Because you're not this, because at the absolute level, you're not the one choosing whether you're going to allow that or not, actually.
So this clarity, this realization, is it a sudden event, or it unfolds gradually?
Neither. There's no such thing as time. There will seem to be an instant where a radical shift in perception has taken place. And at the very next instant, being will look back on itself and say, oh, that's nonsense. This is always the way it was, and there is no time. So there could not be an instant it happens, nor could there be a gradual unfolding. It's just what always is. So I could say, at one point, I still thought I was the Teja identity. And at the next point, something happened. And I totally woke up and I knew from that point on that I was not the Teja identity. And if I were to say that, Ramana and Nisargadatta would tap me on the shoulder and said, you haven't woken up yet. Nothing has happened yet. Because if it had, you wouldn't be talking like that. You wouldn't be saying that. Because there are no instants, there are no moments. Hmm?
I get that.
What's the duration of now? Everybody says, I need to become rooted in the now. I need to be here now. Okay. What's the duration of now? Does it have a back or a front? You know, it doesn't exist.
Very profound.
No. You may have noticed in my work with these friends that I call them friends. I absolutely refuse to have anybody call me a teacher or guru or anything like that. You know, I feel like we're all just kids sitting around in a circle reminding each other of the truth. That's how it feels
It's
to
true.
me. And it's a blessing to share this with each other, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a grace.
It really is. It's the definition of grace. And it's what feels more like love than anything else I can use for the word love. There's times when I'm with my friends and I literally feel physically as if this is oozing out and it's oozing out of them and it's just merging into this one liquid pool and there's no separation between us whatsoever. And that's love. That's what I mean when I use the word love. And I can't cause it, but it happens naturally.
Thank you so much, Teja, for sharing your wisdom, insights. I mean, words are always limiting, and they don't really do justice. For
Okay, everybody.
all right. Thank you so much, Teja. Lovely meeting
Okay.
you and lovely talking to you. And thank you so much.
Bye bye now.
Bye bye.